it feels like the Change the Date campaign is gaining momentum.
Afternoon to you, Ash. Yeah, I wouldn't mind being in Darwin, a bit warmer than where I am here in Mount Macedon, that's for sure. Look, yes, I do think mood is changing slightly, and I've got to say that personally, I'm increasingly uncomfortable with the nature of Australia Day. I think we all, that is all non-Indigenous Australians, have to accept the fact that our own prosperity and that of the nation as well, as a consequence ultimately of expropriation, appropriation with a bit of killing, quite a bit of it in fact, as a consequence. So that's one fact. And if you go back a little while, it's really only in the 1980s and 1990s that Australia Day became a thing, largely in consequence, I think, as a result of our increasing sense of independence and well-being as a nation. I'm quite taken, I must say, by a solution proposed by that eminent Indigenous leader, Noel Pearson, who suggests that we should really be marking both the 25th and the 26th of January. The 25th effectively as the last day of First Nations sovereignty and care for this continent's over 60,000 years or more. And then January the 26th as a day to mark for Indigenous Australians their survival despite everything that confronted them, and also to celebrate the nation that we are now. As he very eloquently put it, I thought, noting the ancient inheritance that we have from Indigenous Australia, the British inheritance we have from what occurred on January the 26th, 1788, and our multicultural achievement, the nation that we have become. And when you look at events in the United States in recent times and the fact that Joe Biden in his inaugural address wanted to point out that one of his priorities was to eliminate long-standing racism from the United States, the fact that he had to say that was quite telling, I thought. And yes, I think we have a lot to celebrate, but there's a lot we also need to remember, and remember how we got to where we are.
Absolutely. Jim, looking more broadly at politics, it's been a quiet month, as it always is, on the political scene. But one debate with some teeth that seems like it could escalate in the coming weeks is over the vaccine rollout. Labor essentially today accusing the government of mismanaging this as we look at some delays to that rollout plan.
Well, what we do know is that in the UK and the United States, people are getting vaccines right now, and healthcare workers and other frontline workers in Australia are not. I do wonder whether the government was putting too many eggs in one or two baskets, as it were, the AstraZeneca vaccine, which could be produced here, and also that UQ experiment, which in the end failed, and that therefore we are a bit behind the eight ball. That said, it is summer here, and it would seem to me that as long as we have a rollout of vaccines in sufficient numbers to look after, in particular, the healthcare, quarantine workers, other frontline workers, and the most vulnerable, then come next winter, we may well not be faced with the situation that we faced, and particularly in Victoria last year. But I do think, yes, perhaps there's something to the Labor Party's criticism that the government might have been a bit more proactive than reactive, that other countries were getting contracts as far back as March last year, whereas I think ours, the first of them, was in December. So it's not surprising that we're further down the pecking order than we might otherwise be. That said, the priority, of course, is for nations like the United States and the UK and Europe going through a terrible winter and also faced with a virus which is even more infectious, it appears, and even more devastating during the winter months. So let's hope that we get what we need before this winter hits.
Jim, you mentioned the US. The article of impeachment was sent to the Senate this morning, our time. What does that actually mean for Donald Trump and the Republicans? Just how significant is it, and how do things play out from here?
Very hard to say how it plays out. It's interesting that Mitch McConnell has given way to a degree in not using the arcane measures that are applicable in the Senate to stop things stop things being done. Indeed, very significant. I think that Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, has been now confirmed by the Senate. I don't think the Democrats would have moved the articles of impeachment to the Senate had they not thought they had an opportunity to at least discuss this. This is a very difficult issue for the Republicans. Mitch McConnell, the now minority leader in the Senate, has acknowledged that he thinks that Donald Trump did commit offences. He has also said that whether or not Republican senators vote for impeachment or not is a matter for them individually, that he won't hold them to a party line. But if Donald Trump is to be impeached, it will take 17 Republicans to effectively cross the floor, and the threat to them and the calculation they have to make, among other things, is the threat effectively to their pre-selections. We've already seen that those House Republicans who supported impeachment of Donald Trump for a second time, a number of them have been threatened by their local Republican parties with effectively what amounts to disendorsement, to use an Australian term, and those Republicans who may be inclined to support impeachment of Donald Trump could find themselves in the same position and have their futures threatened. So that's the situation, but I think it's highly dynamic, and it very much depends on how Joe Biden manages the continuing early days of the transition to his administration as much as anything else.